All of those moments not caring about my mind, body, and soul finally took its toll, and I popped. The internal war began. Hello, I'm Matthew Muskeen, and this is my journey through sobriety. I don't know if you've ever experienced an addiction before, or know someone that has, but my intention for sharing this with you is to let you know that you're not alone, and there's other options out there for you. And if you've never experienced an addiction before, this is just to share some of the experiences and sensations that someone may go through while having an addiction. My addiction stemmed from a childhood trauma. I was seeking acceptance through external sources, which caused me to party hard. I was seeking validation from others by identifying as Party Boy Muzz, the craziest partier out there. I was riddled with coping mechanisms, unconscious to the pain that I'd experienced in my life. The best way that I can describe what I felt was it was like an eagle's talons stabbing me through my back, piercing my flesh, ripping me from my insides out. The talons tearing my heart out of my chest and flying away with it, leaving my body broken and alone. I felt like I couldn't breathe, constantly being suffocated and gasping for breath. I didn't understand what was happening to me, and I had no one to talk to. I was ashamed of myself, ashamed to look at myself in the mirror. During my 12-hour anxiety attack, I was drowning in my past traumas. The alcohol had overridden me. I was alone in the darkest pit of self. All I had was my own self-sabotaging thoughts. I can remember in that moment questioning, why should I go on? Screaming into the pillow, why? Tell me, give me a reason why! I was ready to end it all. No reason to keep moving forward. But in our darkest hour, there's a seed of light. That can carry us over the highest mountaintops, swim across the largest oceans, and guide us through the deepest forests. In this lightness, I got a crazy idea. What if I get sober? I never thought I'd be the one to contemplate suicide. In that moment, it seemed like the only logical thing to get me out of the attack. Instead, I made a pact with myself. That pact would change my life forever. I said, for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. every single morning and exercise for an hour. I'm going to eat healthy, and I'm going to look after myself and stop drinking for 2 weeks. And if I don't improve and feel better, then I'm gonna commit suicide. That moment was a huge release because I had an ultimatum, whereas if I didn't change, I had a way out and I didn't have to deal with it any further. That decision drastically changed my life, and from that moment on, I'd never be the same. I wanted to understand fear because I was so afraid and confused about life. I had so many questions that I couldn't really get answered. Where does anxiety come from? How to stop an anxiety attack? Why am I feeling anxiety? As I got deeper into understanding fear, I realized it was paralyzing me, my life, and those around me. I started gaining momentum. I started feeling better in my body. I started getting curious. I started reading books for the first time and got into self-development. I was fascinated that I could improve myself. This type of information wasn't taught to me in school, and I got super infatuated with it. At the end of the 2 weeks, I felt surprisingly good, and I said to myself, I'll just keep going and see what happens. And then a strange thing happened. I got an image of kids in my mind, and I got a thought, why am I getting sober? And I realized I'm doing it for the kids. I have to be a role model for them because I never had one. So I started to document my journey. Hey friends, this is Matt coming to Reborn Mind, Body, Soul. If you're watching this, you believe in new beginnings and becoming your own ultimate superhero. I want to be at the forefront. I want to be at the peak of the iceberg of positivity. I grew up without a father and I didn't really have a positive male figure in my life. I thought of other kids in the same position and I decided I want to be their role model. This image acted as fuel and it motivated me to keep going. By the time I was 3 months into my journey, I was aware of meditation, but I had no real understanding of what it was. But then I stumbled across sensory deprivation tanks. This allows you to go into yourself with 0 senses. This tank would change my life forever. Part of my addiction was because I was afraid to face self and I had a fear of being alone. The only way to get over it was to go into it. I've now spent 2,000 plus hours in a float tank, and it's challenging for me to communicate to you exactly what I experienced. But whilst in there, I get images of myself as a child, of all the times when my mom and dad were fighting, watching my dad abuse my mom, all the times I got made fun of, the times where I wronged people, I stole, cheated, and hurt people. I was unconscious of my behaviors and my traumas, and they would come up like slideshows over and over again, and I would have to face them one by one. At the time, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was healing. I had no support, no guidance, didn't have a mentor, and I couldn't relate to AA. But as I got deeper into floating and meditation, I found psychedelics. As I continued my research into self-development, I found out that the 13th step of AA is to take LSD. I also found out that in the early 60s, psychiatrists were using this with their patients and getting massive positive results within their traumatic healing. From this moment on, psychedelics changed my life forever. This medicine deeply helped me heal, but psychedelics alone won't heal you. It takes you halfway there, but it's up to you to do the rest. I'd like to think of transformation like a caterpillar, emerging from its cocoon and becoming its highest form, a butterfly. Going through this much growth can be extremely challenging and overwhelming. It can be confusing for those around you to understand what you are going through. Over time, I have lost friends and disconnected with my family due to this lack of understanding. 2 years into my journey, I was really starting to heal and understand self. I asked myself one question: what is it I can study to the day I die? And I got one answer: to study peace. This takes me to today, where I live in Bali with the love of my life. I feel so happy and grateful to be at this stage in my life. I've learned so much, I've grown so far. I've seen so deep. I see so many humans stuck in the same darkness that I was surrounded in. I deeply empathize with them. I don't judge another human for a single one of their actions because of how deeply unconscious I was. I was there too, drowning in my own sorrows and unconsciousness. But my intention for sharing this with you is to be that light, that glimmer of hope. If you're a human being, that means you've experienced trauma and it's stored in your subconscious mind. But I'm here to tell you today that it's okay. It's okay to face it when you're ready. The analogy I like to give people is, their subconscious mind is like a backpack. The traumas are the unnecessary things we don't need to be carrying around. They are weighing us down and holding us back from our true greatness. If we can learn to let them go, this is where our true peace begins. I'm not sharing this message seeking validation or praise. I'm sharing it with the intention to positively impact one person. Know that darkness has its teachings. Is there a place inside yourself that you're currently not looking? Something you're trying to avoid? Or is there someone you know that needs to hear this message? Know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. The sun does come out after the night, and there's lessons to be learned from our past. Let me be your sun and show you a depth of acceptance that you may have never felt before. Feel the tone in my voice. Feel the peace in my heart. I love you, and the reason I can love you so deeply is the depth of love I've learned to give myself. So I want to share this love with you today and tell you it's okay. It can get better. It's just a decision away.